does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review. And today I'm very excited to check out Munchkin X-Men from Steve Jackson Games and USAopoly. This is for 3 or 4 players, take about 1 to 2 hours to play, and it's for ages 10 plus. And this is another standalone / expansion in the immensely popular Munchkin universe, but this one is themed around X-Men. In this game, you're going to be taking control of an aspiring student who wants to eventually be an X-Men once they get to level 10. Along the way, you're going to be fighting tons of X-Men bad guys, getting X-Men superpowers and equipment, joining affiliations, and doing all sorts of stuff like that. It's more Munchkin, but is it good Munchkin? Let's open it up, and I'll tell you what I think. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what you're going to get inside of Munchkin X-Men. So first and foremost, we have a handy-dandy rule sheet. It is one really long page, double-sided, full color, full of pictures, illustrations, examples. It's very well done. It should have you up and running pretty smoothly. As should be expected, because this is like the 20th or 30th version of Munchkin, so they have fine-tuned the rules along the way, so big thumbs up on the rule booklet. So in Munchkin X-Men, you are going to be at Professor Xavier's Academy, and you're going to be taking control of one of these 4 characters right here. Each character is going to have their own unique special ability. One thing I really like is the fact that you flip it over and you can play as a lady or as a dude. So the special abilities all feel pretty good when you get an extra +2 when in combat alone. Once per combat, you may discard a card to get +2 to either side. You may have 2 extra cards in your hand, or you get an extra +2 when helped or being helped, my personal favorite. So you're going to get your card right here. You're going to start with a little token here to symbolize that you are on level 1. If you get to level 10, you win the game. In order to increase levels, you are going to have to defeat monsters. Now, you also can do some other things like selling treasure and getting level up cards, but for the most part, you're going to get the majority of your points by defeating big bad guys like Master Mold, Magneto, Juggernaut, and other people of the same ilk. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that if you are a fan of the comic books, you're going to notice that there's some unique quirks with these cards that will work thematically, which I really do like. So maybe one particular bad guy does better against X-Men and does worse against X-Force, and they'll be like, oh, that's because in the comic this and this and this happened, which I really do like, but I'll talk more about that in the pros and cons. So, also, we'll talk about the 2 decks right now. So this is the door deck right here, and this is the treasure deck right here. In the door deck, you're going to find a lot of bad guys, because you're going to be kicking open doors to potentially fight bad guys. You'll also see these purple cards right here, which are powers that you will be able to equip to yourself. You can only have as many powers as you are high on the level track. So if you were at, say for instance, level 5, then you could have power rank cards that would add up to a total of 5, and these will give you unique twist and twerks, I don't think that's the right word, to your superhero. So as you progressively get better, your superhero will be different from other people's superheroes in what they can and cannot do, which is actually pretty cool. Also in here, you might encounter traps, which are bad things that will happen to you. Some will make you lose levels and various different things like that. Now, I know what you're saying right here. You're saying, wow, some of those bad guys had really high levels, 15, 18, 20, and I'm starting as a lowly level 1. So this right now is my strength right here. Luckily, though, you will be able to strengthen up with this treasure deck right here. When you defeat bad guys, you will gain treasure. There's swords, adamantium skeletons, lots of allies that you'll be able to equip. You can only have 1 ally at a time, but some of them, like, there's Storm, for instance, will allow you to have an additional ally. So you'll be able to stack up bonuses. You'll have go up level cards. And as you can see in the upper left-hand corner, this is a hand item. This is a 2-handed item. This is a shirt item. So it's all pretty self-explanatory. You can have 1 item for each part of your body, except for hands, which you can have 2 one-handed items or a 2-handed item equipped. And these will give you various different bonuses. So +2 bonuses, an extra +2 when in combat alone. So if you stack that up, say with this guy, that would be absolutely fantastic, because he gets +2 combat when he's in +2 combat alone anyway, so he would be getting 6 bonus just from having this. Now, also on the bottom of these cards, you might notice that there are gold amounts. This is another way you'll be able to level up your character. You can sell your items, and if you sell 1,000 worth of items in one go, you'll be able to go up 1 level. However, you cannot win the game getting to level 10 by doing that. You have to defeat a monster in order to get to level 10. So also in here, you're going to notice there are one-shots. These are generally going to be modifiers that you will be able to put on either bad guys or good guys when they are fighting each other. They'll say one shot and play during any combat, so +2 bonus to either side, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. So treasure, good thing, you want to draw it. Last thing that I want to mention, which is in the, I believe that, yep, they're in the door deck, are going to be affiliation. So you will be able to get affiliated with either the X Factor, the X-Men, or the X-Force, and a lot of the cards in the deck will apply to that. So let's say +3 to X-Men, -4 to X-Force or whatever. And also getting one of these will also give you a unique special ability that you'll be able to utilize. So there you go. Let's start the game. So when you first start the game, you're going to be dealt 4 black cards and 4 white cards. And when it's your turn, you are going to equip. Actually, when you first start, you're going to equip whatever you would like to equip. So I have a level 6 Lady Deathstrike, which I might be able to play later on, a trap, which I could put on someone else, an X-Men affiliation, so you may have 2 extra ranks worth of powers, which is great, so that'll mean I can put more of those purple cards in front of me, and when another player discards an ally, you may discard 2 cards and put that ally in your hand, so that's pretty useful. So I'd put that down in front of me. I also have a Wandering Monster, which is a fantastic card. This allows me to play a bad guy out of my hand on someone else to hopefully make them lose. Now let's take a look at the treasure cards I got. Ooh, I got Iceman's Ice Sled, so that is a foot item, so I could equip that. I also have a helmet, the Juggernaut's helmet. If you would lose a level to a trap or bad stuff, you may discard a card, roll the dice, and potentially cancel the effect. But the big thing is, that gives me +2 here, so I now have 1, 2, 3, 4 power. And I have an ally. Boom, I got Cable. So an extra +2 for X-Force. I'm not X-Force, but still, I am now rocking 6 power, which is not too bad. And especially if I can use my special ability, I get +2 as well. So what are you actually going to be doing on your turn? I guess that's probably what you're wondering. First thing that you were going to do is you were going to kick open the door. So at the beginning of everyone's turn, they're going to kick open the door. Bam! They're going to flip over a card, and wow, that is about the best card you could possibly draw on your first turn. I have a level 1 Toad. So, in order to defeat him, I have to have at least a power of more than 1, which obviously, I'm going to blow this guy away, but let's read the card text first. So, when he enters combat, roll the die. On a 1 through 3, he gets +3. On a 4 through 6, the players in combat must discard a card. So that kind of stinks. Let's see what happens. I rolled a 6, and as you can see, oh cool, instead of a 1, it's got a little X-Men there. So I rolled a 6, so I am going to have to discard a card. It's not the end of the world. I would probably get rid of this trap. I'd probably get rid of the trap because a Wandering Monster card is really useful, and I can defeat this Lady Deathstrike. So I would discard this card right up there. Now, what would happen now is I can beat him. But I still could ask for help if I wanted to. I could say, all right, does anyone want to help me? I will give you the treasure, and you can give other people treasures. So some of these will say like 2 treasures, 3 treasures, 4 treasures. You might be like, you get 2 treasures, I get 2 treasures, you help me. But here's the thing, they don't get the level, because when you defeat a monster, you gain a level. So what would happen is I'd say, all right, I'm not going to take any help. Does anyone want to modify this bad guy? This early in the game, most likely people would not. However, what they could do is they might say, for instance, play this 2. Somebody might say, yeah, forget you. I'm going to play, boom, +5 to monster, +5 to monster. And now I'm looking at a level 11 Toad, and I have a problem right here. Now, if I don't have a card right here, I'm in trouble, which means I would have to roll to see if I could run away. And you have to roll the dice to see if you can run away. And if you don't run away, bad stuff will happen to you. Toxic Spit, discard a random card from your hand, which is not really bad stuff. Some of them will have you dying, some of them will have you losing levels. So this one's not too terrible. But most likely, no one would waste their cards right now in order to do that. So what I would do is I would defeat this Toad. So it would go right here. I would go up 1 level. I would draw 1 treasure since I successfully defeated, and hooray for me. Now what I would do is I would see how many cards I have. If I'm over the hand limit, you have to do what's called charity, which is where you discard down to your hand limit, and you have to discard your cards to the people that have the lowest level. So it's kind of like a little bit of a catch-up mechanism going on there. Now, let's pretend that this is not what happened on my turn. So it gets back around to me. I'm at level 2. And what if I don't flip over a bad guy? So say I flip over this. I kick open the door and I find myself a special power, which is great. You know what? I might just play that right now. But here's the next option that I have. I can either loot the room, which will, for all intents and purposes, end my turn, which means I just draw the top card right here and secretly put it into my hand. Or what I can do is I can look for trouble. When you look for trouble, you can use one of the bad guy cards in your hand and play it down, and then you fight that bad guy like it would be a regular bad guy. Other things that might potentially happen when you flip open the door, there are traps in here, and you will have to deal with those traps. Bad stuff will happen to you. Other people can also play traps on you, or you can play traps on other people. And yeah, that's pretty much what's going to happen when you kick open that door. Anywho, you're going to continue to go around leveling up, fighting bad guys, backstabbing people, teaming up with people, using your special abilities until someone is able to get to level 10 by defeating a monster. Once they do that, they will be the winner of Munchkin X-Men, and that in a nutshell is how the game is played. Alrighty then, Munchkin X-Men from USAopoly and Steve Jackson Games. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First and foremost, 3 and 4 players. That's a very restricted player count. A lot of the Munchkin Deluxes go 5 and 6 players, so it's surprising to see them revert back to the 3 and 4 players, but hey, whatever. Also, another comment I have of this game is just all the typical stuff that people dislike about Munchkin, which is it can stretch out way too long. It has a King of the Hill problem, where if you're in first place, everyone's going to try and knock you down, so they can get in first place, then everyone's going to try and knock that person down, and that will rinse, wash, and repeat. Another comment I have with this game is that if you're not a fan of X-Men, then this is not the version of Munchkin for you. While it is very heavily thematic, if you don't like the theme, then obviously go get any of the other different versions of Munchkin. Another thing that I want to mention about this, which should be pretty obvious, is it does not have that distinct Munchkin sense of humor and artwork. Now, obviously it doesn't have the artwork, but it doesn't have any humor in this game really whatsoever that I noticed, which might be a turnoff to some people because Munchkin, you know, it started off as a satire of dungeon crawlers, and this game definitely takes itself very serious. At least it feels like it does, which might be a turnoff to some people. Any other cons that I have with the game? You know, typical Munchkin cons. Other than that, I feel like they've done a lot to improve the base game of Munchkin by adding little additions and tweaks here and there. Moving on to the pros, this is definitely one of the best versions of Munchkin that I have played, as long as you're not looking at this as a 5 and 6 player game. Why do I say that? First and foremost, I am an X-Men fanboy. Wolverine is my favorite superhero of all time, so I was very excited about this game, and they did their due diligence with this game. It feels like the people that created this game really loved X-Men. You're going to notice a lot of subtle nuances here and there about different interactions and different card interactions and the different way that bad guys will interact with you depending on if you're an X-Men or an X-Force or a woman or a male, and I like that. The bad stuff makes sense. The good stuff makes sense. You know, I like the traps. I like the powers in this game. I really like how the powers worked. I know that's been in a couple older versions of Munchkin, but I like how it works in here, where as you progressively gain more powers as a student, you're actually going to be able to acquire more of these power cards. So maybe now you can fly, and maybe now you have, you know, better healing and stuff like that. I really like how that works. I love the asymmetrical characters. That's a really cool addition as well, where you're going to get this player card. And the player card by itself is fantastic because, you know, it's a great way to keep track of your score, which a lot of Munchkins don't have. But also the fact that everybody's going to have their own asymmetrical special ability. I like that. I like the fact that it's, you know, boys on one side, girls on the other side, because, you know, I'm a boy, and it's not sexist. I would rather play as a boy, and I imagine most women would rather play as a woman if they had that choice. All the characters look cool, and theme-wise, it works. You know, you're trying to level yourself up so you can be a real X-Men. I like the artwork, which obviously it looks like it was pulled from the comics, which obviously that's a great choice. And overall, I really enjoyed this version of Munchkin. If you've never played Munchkin before, you know, there's a reason it's immensely popular, and that's because it's light, it's simple, and it's fun. If you don't like Munchkin, though, I don't think this is going to sway you. Like, if you hate Munchkin and you're still a big X-Men fan, I don't feel like this game does enough to bring you over to the dark side, so to speak. But if you're on the fence or you do like Munchkin, this is definitely one I can recommend. I think it's one of the best versions of Munchkin that I have played. I can't wait till they get some expansions out so I can play with 5 or 6 players. But Munchkin X-Men as a whole, one I really enjoy. Mix it in with any of the old versions of Munchkin if you want to. Might look a little weird, but still, you're going to have a good deal of fun. So that is Munchkin X-Men from USAopoly and Steve Jackson Games. Yet another rock-solid Munchkin. I would probably put this in my top 4 or 5 Munchkin? Which, actually, that's a good question. If you enjoyed this content, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below. In the comments below, let me know, what is your favorite version of Munchkin? For me personally, I think it's still Munchkin Steampunk Deluxe. That one comes with a board. I think that one goes up to 6 players. And I actually hate steampunk, but I just loved how they satired it, which I enjoyed. I think this might be in the number 2 slot. I really enjoyed Munchkin Marvel, but I think this might be in the number 2 slot. But let me know in the comments below, what's your favorite version of Munchkin if you enjoy Munchkin. And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.